Hello and welcome to the inside of a car. Now normally when we do car reviews we like to show some beautiful tracking shots, sometimes at sunrise, sometimes at sunset. My editor will put one in now. There we go, it's a tracking shot, very nice. But because this is a car that many of you will probably buy, I imagine you want to spend the next few minutes of your life learning useful things. And so here we go, a Cars.co.za consumer-focused review.
This is the all-new Volkswagen T-Cross. The model we have here today is the very top spec Highline R-Line DSG, and I must admit it looks the business. It has LED headlights as standard, those body-colored side skirts come with the package, the front treatment is a bit different and you get this R badge, which people really seem to like. You also get these 18-inch wheels which really fill out the arches nicely. And the car we're comparing it to is another Volkswagen known as the Polo.
And the reason we've lined these two cars up today is because they're actually sort of rivals. The prices for both these model ranges overlap. And so many South Africans are going to be asking themselves, which one should I buy? Well, let me try and help.
In this comparison, size really does matter, and on paper the T-Cross is supposed to be taller and longer than the Polo and identical in width. But we lined them up right next to each other, and when parked next to the Polo, the T-Cross seems to shrink.
And I suppose the reason why you're looking at an SUV is because you want more space, especially boot space. And on that front, the news is not amazing. VW says the Polo's boot is 350 liters, which says this boot is 377. That's only a 7% increase. And to be honest, when I look at both of them, they look exactly the same. But the T-Cross does have a trick up its sleeve, which I will now show you. And the trick is that the entire rear bench slides, but it's not as easy as you might think. The handle is down here in the middle and it's quite heavy, so you can't get any leverage. So you kind of have to stick your foot in and really yank it over. And this is very convenient because it makes the boot huge, but it's also a bit inconvenient because then your passengers can't have any legs. But if you put it back into position and you flip down the seats, you get a completely flat load area, which Volkswagen says is the largest in the segment. I'll take their word for it. And if you upgrade your media system, you get 2 USB ports in the back so that your kids don't argue over who gets to charge their device. But you have to upgrade your infotainment. Let me take you through that in the front seat. For 22,850 of your hard-earned rands, you can upgrade to this, the Discover Media Pro system of your dreams. It comes with Android Auto, Apple CarPlay, satellite navigation, all the connectivity to your phone that you would expect, and a nifty wireless charging pad, which is quite big, and that should swallow most phones of most sizes, and then charges wirelessly. I love that. But it also includes this digital instrument display, which you can order separately for 9,000 Rand, but it's probably just worth getting it as a package. For an extra 5,000 Rand, you can have keyless entry and keyless start, so your key just stays in your pocket. You start the car with the button over here. It's like it's from the future. But all of these extras add up to 430,000 Rand for this particular unit that I'm sitting in, and that isn't what I would describe as cheap. But unfortunately, some of the materials in here I would describe as cheap. I mean, the steering wheel's nice, this is leather, that looks premium, the handbrake's leather, but this, oh, that is some pretty cheap and nasty plastic. I don't like that so much.
Even though the Polo's interior features the same scratchy plastics as the T-Cross, for some reason it feels a little bit more premium in here. Keep in mind that this is the Beats edition of the Polo, or the Boots edition as we like to call it, which does feature a unique interior treatment. The seats are notably different to a standard Polo. The red trim on the dash is standard to this edition, and some of the plastics are a fetching shade of beige. Other than that, between the two cars, the tech is virtually identical, except that you can't spec a wireless charging pad in the Polo.
As you might suspect, these cars are powered by engines, and interestingly, it is exactly the same engine in both cars. It's a 1-litre turbocharged 3-cylinder petrol. Both have exactly the same power outputs of 85 kilowatts and 200 newton meters. Right now, if you want a T-Cross, that's the only engine you can order. And we think on a day-to-day basis, running around town, it's actually fine. But if you're going to be fully loaded often, then it will feel a little bit sluggish, and it might be a good idea to wait for the larger 1.5-litre turbo, which arrives in South Africa in 2020. Now, I'm sure you're interested in what these cars are like to drive and what the difference is between them. And the answer is not very much at all. I mean, basically they're mechanically identical. Same engine, same gearboxes, same chassis, riding on the same size wheels and tires. And so if you were blindfolded and you drove both back to back, which would be quite impressive, you know, driving blindfolded, but I don't think you'd actually be able to tell them apart. The one thing I would say though is these 18-inch wheels, they do look very nice. They make the car look very appealing, but they ruin the ride a little bit. It's a bit crashier, a little bit more wooden than you might hope for. So if you're looking for a very soft ride, go for the smaller wheels and tires, but if you want something a bit sportier in looks and handling, well, then go for these big 18 inches. You do pay a little bit of a fuel consumption penalty when going for the T-Cross. It is a heavier car, but it's only 0.5 of a litre to the 100 kilometers. So I don't really think that's a huge deal. You probably won't notice either.
Let's get into the nitty-gritty. An entry-level T-Cross will cost you 334,600 Rand. This top spec one will cost you 382,850 Rand before options. But a similarly spec'd Polo with the R-Line kit will cost you 345,600. So if you compare like for like, there's a 37,000 Rand price difference.
And now it's time for a conclusion. Which car would you buy? Which car should you buy? Which car would I buy? So many questions. But I think when you're looking at a car like this, you're probably financing it. And so I went onto Cars.co.za, I went to our car finance calculator, I put in 0 deposit, 0 residual, prime interest rate, and the difference between this T-Cross and the equivalent Polo was less than 800 Rand a month, which is not a huge amount of money. And I suppose it's going to be up to you to decide whether that 800 Rand is worth it. For me, there's not a huge difference in terms of practicality between the T-Cross and the Polo. Even though this is supposedly an SUV, I actually don't think you're getting much more space inside this car, particularly when it comes to the boot area. So for me, the key difference between this car and the Polo is the looks and the styling. And I find this car really appealing, much more appealing than, say, its rivals from Ford or from Renault. And so if it was my choice, yeah, I'd have the T-Cross.
Did you know that we also sell really awesome car-themed merchandise? Check out our range of custom t-shirts and prints at our online store now. Simply click on the square box on your screen and we'll take you there, or the link is in the description below. Thanks for watching.